Asha Maslin is a good-looking, energetic 21-year-old. A charmer with the gift of the gab. He seemed like he might be good boyfriend material when 20-year-old Holly Gazzard fell for him, but neither she nor her family knew of his past.
He'd been arrested 23 times with escalating violence, domestic abuse, grievous bodily harm. He was a serial perpetrator. She would not have wanted to have been with someone who had done that to other people.
At first, the relationship is strong.
She was happy and I just wanted what was best for her.
But then, Maslin's mask begins to slip.
I thought, oh, if he can push her over, what else can he do? Holly had just sort of aired her opinion. Like, I've had enough, I'm not doing this anymore.
How do you ever imagine that somebody you're in a relationship with, and you're close to, and you love, is going to do that to you?
Holly Gazzard works as a hairstylist at a beauty salon in Gloucester. She's good friends with her boss, Faye Williams.
So the first time I met Holly, she walked through the door at Reflections Hairdressers to see if there was any hairdressing jobs. Immediately we got on, she was very chatty, bubbly, and got the job.
Holly and Faye are good friends with another stylist at the salon, Kaylee.
The one thing I remember is obviously you get foil for highlighting in hairdressing, and I folded the foil wrong, and that was the moment she first spoke to me and obviously reassured me, you know, you've done it wrong. This is the right way of doing it. And then that was it. From then on, we just got on from day dot.
Working in hair and beauty is a dream come true for Holly.
I would say Holly was definitely passionate with our hairdressing, even in herself as well. Like every week, she'd always have something different, a different colour, a different cut.
Red hair, shaved hair, blonde hair. She suited any kinds of colours. She'd go for it.
Holly lives 5 miles from the salon with her mum, her sister, and her dad, Nick.
As you'll probably see from the pictures of Holly, you know, she never had the same hair twice, and she really did like the way that she could express herself through her hair.
Holly and her dad are incredibly close.
She was a big Man United fan, as I am, and one of the best things in the world that I did with her was to take her to Old Trafford to see a game, and she absolutely loved it.
After 3 years working in a local salon, Holly is keen to spread her wings and see the world.
She did the apprenticeship in hairdressing, and when she qualified, she said she wanted to travel. And I said, well, a little bit cautious about traveling, Holly, because she wanted to go on her own. I said, how about combining your hairdressing with your traveling? Cruise ship. Fantastic, she said, Dad.
She always said about she wanted to work on a cruise. So yeah, she's done all her training for it. She got through. She's really excited. I was really excited for her just because that's something she always wanted to do.
When Holly got the job on the cruise ship, she left her job at the salon in Gloucester and she got a part-time job at a bar working in the evenings.
21-year-old Asha Maslin is a regular at the bar. He grew up in nearby Cheltenham and works on and off as a security guard.
He used to frequent that bar and he latched on to Holly as soon as she started working behind that bar.
She had seen him a few times, obviously trying to get her number, wanting to take her out. You know, you're very pretty, I'd like to take you out. Yeah, she obviously gave him her number in the end and went out with him.
Holly excitedly tells her friend Kaylee about Maslin, but mentions that he's coming on pretty strong.
She just sort of said, I've met this guy, he wouldn't leave me alone, was how she worded it.
As the relationship progresses, there's a real spark between them.
I think they went out for a few meals, a couple of dates, and then that was when she said, this is going well. So, you know, as a friend, I was just like, oh, like, good for you, it must be going well.
With just 8 weeks to go before the cruise, she still can't help herself falling for Maslin.
When I first found out that Holly was dating him, I was happy for her because it sounded as though he was treating her well. She was happy and I just wanted what was best for her.
Kaylee realises she knows Holly's new boyfriend from secondary school.
He was a few years older than me. I just always remember him as, you know, I would maybe describe it as like a top dog. You know, he was walking around with a comb in his hair. You know, he thought he was the I am big man. He just always thought he was the top person.
The couple are together all the time. Their relationship is moving really fast. Her friends see something in Holly they've not seen before.
You know, they fell in love really quickly. That's how I looked at it, especially because, you know, I seen Holly previously before she was with Maslin and she just went on a few dates, didn't really fancy anyone. As her friend, I just seen her happy and I honestly just thought that's what she wanted to do at the time.
Holly feels so good about the relationship, she decides to introduce him to her parents.
When he came through the door, my wife said, oh, it's him. And my wife worked at the local school as a dinner lady, and she knew a little bit about him. He had a bit of a reputation at school, being a bit of a bad boy, but nothing else than that. And like everyone, I would give someone a second chance. You know, I didn't know him from Adam. First impression was he's a bit of a lad, you know, a bit of a Jack the lad. He's got the gift of the gab, very talkative, very confident.
Holly and Maslin have been seeing each other for 2 months. But now, Holly is to set sail on a 9-month tour of the Caribbean.
She was so excited and I told her she should do it, go and travel the world.
Days into her trip, she posts pictures on Instagram. But after just 1 week at sea, Holly's beginning to regret her decision.
About a week later, she got hold of us and said, Dad, could you arrange flights to bring me home? And we went, wow, why? You know, because, you know, she had her heart set on doing the cruise and we could not understand why she would suddenly change her mind.
I was very shocked. And I said to her, why don't you just keep trying? You might start to enjoy it. But something was pulling her back.
She said she was homesick. So we thought, well, if that's what she's done, she's made up her mind, there's no point in trying to persuade her to stay, let's get her back. So we arranged all the flights, we got her back. My wife and a friend went up to pick her up in London, and we brought her back to Gloucester.
Holly's friends and family suspect she's missed Maslin and that he is the real reason she's returned home.
It wasn't until you looked into it properly and you thought, oh, has she actually come back early because of Maslin? Has Maslin been contacting her saying, you know, come home?
We believe that he bombarded her with telephone calls, text, FaceTime, that really got into her psyche and made her uncomfortable in terms of being away from home so far, and persuaded her, I think, to come home. You know, he was like that.
Just over a week after Holly left, she's back with Maslin. But something's changed. He's acutely possessive. He doesn't want to let her go again.
So me, Holly and Kaylee went out for a night out in Gloucester. He appeared outside the nightclub, wanting Holly to go home.
Like, he didn't want her to be out and having fun and drinking. Like, he wanted her to be at home and be in control of that situation.
I could see he was just watching her, trying to cause arguments with her, being very possessive when she was just wanting a night out with her friends.
It was controlling. It was, where are you? What are you doing?
Maslin insists Holly leaves with him. He won't take no for an answer.
I could just see the look in his eye. He just looked so angry.
Holly Gazzard and her friends are on a night out. But her boyfriend Asha Maslin has turned up uninvited and demands that she goes home with him.
We then moved on to the next place and continued enjoying our night, dancing, having a laugh. But then he would just appear again, causing arguments.
He just wouldn't leave her alone, you know. He had to know what she was doing every minute of every day, which isn't healthy.
She just said he'd been a dickhead and that everything was okay.
The evening comes to an end. Maslin has ruined the night.
Maybe in her mind, she didn't think that there was anything actually wrong with it. It was just the way that he was. You don't really know until you get sort of deep into it, do you?
I think where she is so strong-headed, I think she wanted to just, you know, say to her friends and family, like, no, I've got this, you know, I can handle this.
But at home, her dad Nick notices that Holly isn't herself.
When Holly had been with him, she would change her behaviour. She'd become a little bit moody, a little bit aggressive, but that would then subside after about an hour or so when she was with us, and she would go back to the old Holly. So we did notice that change in Holly when she was with Maslin.
Holly has only been back in Gloucester from her cruise for a few weeks. Suddenly, she wants to move to London. She gets a job as a hairstylist at a salon in Edgware.
Maslin said, well, why don't you come and live with my cousin and I can set that up. So they did. So they went to live with Maslin's cousin in London.
Holly was happy to be moving, to get her own place with her boyfriend, as normal couples do.
But a new start in London doesn't affect Maslin's controlling behaviour.
We visited Holly on a couple of occasions and everything seemed to be fine. But one occasion we went to see her and we were going to take her out for lunch. We said, "Where's Maslin?" And she said, "Well, he's not feeling well today." And she was making excuses for him. But then when we were walking to the restaurant, we could hear on her phone to him, and we heard him say, "Don't let them take you away from me."
I think he just wanted to know what Holly was up to, you know, all the time. He didn't like the fact he wasn't in control of that situation.
Holly and Maslin's flat is miles away from her family in Gloucester.
That was great for him because he had somewhere he could go, somewhere he knew Holly would be, and somewhere where he could isolate Holly from all her family and friends. So really he had what he wanted then.
Holly and Maslin travel back to Gloucester for a meal to celebrate her mum's birthday. She's excited to be back home and posts photos from the restaurant on Instagram.
Maslin was drunk, and I think when he had alcohol, he started to let his guard down. Because when he spoke to me or was in my presence, he would always be that chirpy, charming individual.
As the family celebrations continue, Maslin's mask begins to slip.
His guard was down, and he started to show his true self. He was quite abusive. He was abusive to the other diners, and he was quite abusive to Holly. And he humiliated Holly in front of everyone else. He spoke to her like a piece of dirt. He was demanding, he was clicking his fingers, he was saying things about her. So the way he treated her was like a little child. He didn't respect her.
Maslin goes outside. Holly's family takes the opportunity to speak to her.
We asked Holly if she was all right. She said yes, she was, and there was nothing wrong. It was just he was obviously had a few drinks, and you know he sometimes gets like that when he has a few drinks. And we said to her, "Well, you must look after yourself. You know, is there anything we can do? Help? Let us know." And she said, "No, Dad, I'm fine, not a problem." And the following day, she went back to London, and obviously he went back with her.
What Holly and her family don't know is just before they got together, Maslin was arrested 4 times for offences related to domestic violence. It's the bank holiday weekend, and Notting Hill Carnival is packed with people. Holly and Maslin have now been living together in London for over 2 months. They're at the carnival with Maslin's friends and family.
So she had obviously said to me, "Oh, you know, come down and we can go to Notting Hill together," to which I couldn't make because, you know, hairdressing world, you work every Saturday, so I couldn't make it, which I was gutted about because I would have loved to have gone.
The couple gets separated in the crowd.
He had to know what she was doing every day, every minute, who she was with.
He calls her phone, but can't get through. He's furious. He doesn't know where she is.
He just seemed so controlling. He didn't really want her out of his sight.
I just think there's a love over that line of loving someone too much. You can't let her go.
He finds her and he cracks and pushes her to the ground.
I think he just wanted it all to himself. It wasn't going to be any other way.
Holly Gazzard and Asha Maslin have been going out for 3 months. He's been hiding his violent past, but at the Notting Hill Carnival, he finally cracks.
He either pushed her to the ground or hit her to the ground because she took one of his nephews to the toilet. And he wanted to know where she'd been, who she'd been with, and she'd only been gone 5 minutes.
Holly is devastated. She doesn't know how to react to someone she cares about being violent towards her.
At the time, I was worried for her. You know, I thought, oh, if he can push her over, what else can he do?
I do think she loved him in the beginning, but then she started to see things that maybe she thought, it's not right. Just wasn't normal.
That night, Holly gets away from the carnival and away from Maslin.
I got a call on the Monday morning to say, Dad, can you come and pick me up? I want to come home. And I didn't question Holly at the time because the main thing was, as a parent, drop everything, go and pick her up.
She's back in Gloucester with her dad, not willing to put up with Maslin's behaviour.
She had just sent me a text last minute just saying, I'm coming home, which I was just really excited to hear. I was like, oh, you know, I can't wait to see you.
Life gets back to normal for Holly in Gloucester. She gets a job in a new salon. Her boss is Sian Pryslack.
So when she arrived, a lot of the team really looked up to her because she came with a wealth of experience and skill, and she demonstrated that on clients. We were all sort of really impressed and quite in awe of what she was able to do.
Holly was her normal self. She was back in the family house. She got a job in Gloucester as soon as she got back, and she was back to her old self, bubbly character, vivacious, going out.
Holly's happy back home, until suddenly, Maslin moves back too.
We found out a number of days later that he'd also packed up and came home and was now living in Cheltenham with his mum.
In the weeks since she'd moved out of the flat she shared with Maslin in London, she's kept in contact with him. She's torn and finds it hard to leave him for good.
I think Holly sort of kept going back to Maslin because I do genuinely think she probably was worried at the time what he was going to do. I think that's why she was worried to break it off officially.
There were often times where they may have taken a break, or Holly might have put an end to things, albeit quite briefly, and he would arrive and be talking about things he'd bought for her, or I'm whisking her away for a weekend, I've booked a hotel, or I've just put a deposit down on a flat. He certainly knew how to kind of diffuse things and spin them around.
Maslin won't give her any space. He's jealous of her spending time with anyone else. He even turns up at her work.
He would sort of arrive just as we were doing the clean down of the salon and we were cashing up and things like that. So he would be around and hanging around for easily 20, 30, 40 minutes sometimes.
He was quite possessive and he was constantly texting her, constantly calling her. We'd even noticed that when she was in her bedroom, you know. She'd have to switch her phone off at night because of the amount of text and calls from him. So he was getting very possessive, you know, very fixated.
Holly was a very independent person. She liked doing things when she wanted. I think he started controlling her and stopped letting her see her friends as much as what she wanted to.
Because she was that strong, she kept everything to herself. She wanted to protect us. I think she was embarrassed as well. She didn't want to let people know what was happening.
Holly's new boss, Sharm, is concerned by Maslin's odd behaviour and decides to check him out on social media.
I can actually remember finding him on Facebook and sending a picture to my brother to ask whether he knew him. I immediately was very wary of him.
Nick is now extremely wary of Maslin too. He just wants his daughter to have nothing more to do with him.
He would follow her, we think. He came here a couple of times. We know people have said that he was loitering about 100 yards away from our home. We had a knock on the door about 12 o'clock at night, and it was Maslin. He was drunk. He said, "Can I come in?" We had to say to Holly, we don't want him around the house anymore, because we didn't want him doing that type of thing, you know, turning up late, drunk. That's not what we really wanted.
Holly and Maslin's 10-month relationship has been rocky, and it's beginning to take its toll.
Around Christmas time, we noticed that Holly had begun to change. She just absolutely wasn't herself. She became quite quiet, quite withdrawn. She sort of appeared to have the weight of the world on her shoulders.
It was getting too much for her, and she was saying, "Dad, I don't want this relationship anymore." And I said, "Well, you know, you end it then." She said, "I will end it." I said, "If you want me to get involved, let me know. I'm more than happy to help."
Holly's made the decision, and over the next 2 months, she tries to end the relationship.
She said, "No, Dad, you know, I can handle this. It's not a problem." And we believe that she tried to talk to him on a number of occasions, but he just wouldn't take no for an answer.
Holly decides enough is enough. She's going to end it with Maslin, once and for all.
I remember her messaging me saying she wanted to get out of her relationship and she just wanted him to leave her alone.
And it was actually Valentine's Day, February the 14th, that she said, "I'll take him out to a public place so I'm not on my own, and I've really got to lay it on the line that I don't want anything more to do with him."
Holly and Maslin meet in a local restaurant. They're surrounded by couples out on dates.
I think Holly had just sort of aired her opinion. Like, I've had enough, I'm not doing this anymore. I just want to sort of go back to just being me, having fun.
Maslin doesn't take the news well. He's furious. He yells at Holly and tells her she has a cold heart.
She then went out to her car. He followed her. When she'd opened the door, he jumped in, stole her bank card, which was in her wallet in the footwell, and then went across and stole some money out of her account.
After taking the money, he texts her. Then his messages become increasingly threatening.
She did have threats. Maslin had also threatened her family, you know, it wasn't just Holly as well, it was the family as well that was threatened.
And I said, okay, it's now time that you involve the police because this is unwanted. He's putting fear in you. He's contacting you constantly. You don't want to go through that. So I think it's time that you now involve the police.
As Holly tells the police what's been going on, her family hear the brutal truth of what she's been through.
She told them that he threatened her on a number of occasions. He threatened to throw acid in her face. He threatened to spoil her looks and her career. He said he would beat her up and his family would get her if she broke up with him. She never even spoke to us about it. And that had us in tears, how someone could treat my daughter in that way.
The police are out to arrest Asha Maslin for harassing Holly. He's furious she's reported him and continues to threaten her. Police go to his mum's and his nan's house, but he's not there.
They'd gone to a couple of previous addresses, but they couldn't find him.
There was kind of no real way of knowing where he would be.
Holly's friends and family are terrified that Maslin will carry out his threats. Maslin is in Gloucester town centre.
He went there definitely with all intentions of doing what he was doing.
He appears agitated and argues with staff.
It was completely out of control, his behaviour.
Next, he buys a 12-inch kitchen knife.
I think she thought to herself, you know, if I end this now, you know, maybe I will be safe, maybe I will get away from it, maybe it will stop.
It's been a year since Holly Gazzard and Asha Maslin met and fell in love. Now Maslin is wanted by police regarding his threatening and abusive behaviour towards her. Holly's at work with her friend Sian.
So I had agreed with Holly earlier in the day that if he turned up, I wouldn't make a scene or, say anything. I would just immediately phone the police.
Maslin is approaching Holly's hair salon by foot, and he's carrying a 12-inch kitchen knife.
I think it was around 6:30 that evening. I was doing a gentleman's hair.
Sian leaves her customer and approaches Maslin.
I'd said hello, he'd said hello back. And as I walked towards the back of the salon, Holly was walking towards me, and I held my phone up quite close in front of me to sort of show her that I was going to phone the police, and we sort of both nodded to one another. So I'd phoned the police. I remember feeling quite nervous and quite anxious about it. I sort of heard quite a lot of commotion. And I sort of stuck my head backwards to look behind the door. And there was just people running towards me. One client said to me, "There's a knife."
The attack lasted less than 2 minutes, but Maslin had brutally stabbed Holly 14 times. He dumps the knife and changes his clothes. He gets into a taxi. Holly Gazzard is taken from the salon to Gloucestershire Royal Hospital, where she's pronounced dead. She's 20 years old.
I was just about to leave the house when I saw two people walk down the drive, and they said, "Are you Nick Gazzard?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Do you have a daughter called Holly?" And then they had to tell me that Holly'd been killed in the salon. What was running through my mind at that time was, well, how the hell am I going to tell Holly's mum and sister that Holly's been killed?
The police tell Nick the family have to go with them for their own safety.
Maslin was on the run. Obviously, he was dangerous. And because he previously threatened me, we were now taken to a safe house. We were under armed guard. We had a Range Rover in front, Range Rover in the back, full of armed police, and they had to take us to a safe place.
8 hours after he killed Holly, police finally arrest Maslin at a friend's house.
Yeah, I just kept trying to ring her, to which obviously she wasn't answering. And that's just when I knew something wasn't right. And that's when I had this random message off Facebook of someone really random just saying, "I'm sorry to hear about your friend," which that's just when I knew then, I already had these feelings.
You just wouldn't think that something like that would happen. I was just in disbelief. I didn't think that he would have, wow. You just never think that someone would do something like that.
I don't ever want to forget her. She was a really good friend of mine, and I'll never let that go.
Maslin arrives at Gloucester Crown Court. Holly's friends and family are there too.
He did not show any remorse. He was disrespectful to the judge. It really made us angry. It made me certainly angry and boiling inside that how could you still treat Holly, us, you know, the courts the way you do.
Maslin didn't have any remorse at all. There was a few occasions, you know, he had eye contact with a few of us and, you know, he used to just like mimic words like what.
He was smiling. Just didn't seem to think that there was anything wrong with what he'd done.
Asha Maslin pleaded guilty to the murder of Holly Gazzard. He's sentenced to life in prison.
When he was taken away, he got up and he looked up and smirked and nodded. I think to maintain any semblance of humanity, I have to believe he did that out of bravado.
Holly's family wanted something positive to come from her tragic loss. And in 2014, created the Holly Gazzard Trust.
Well, we didn't want other young people to go through what Holly went through, and certainly parents to go through what we continually go through on a daily basis.
Big thank you to everybody who's turned out, and please enjoy the walk.
We do an annual walk for Holly to remember her, raise money.
Nick's putting everything into the trust. And, you know, I volunteer myself, so I like to do what I can and be involved as much as I can.
Just over a year after Holly died, Nick fulfilled one of her lifelong dreams when he took part in a skydive.
As a father, Holly's legacy to me is something that I will cherish. You know, she was here for 20 years and she was bright, she was enthusiastic, she gave us a lot of pleasure, and I will always remember that.